Hello, friends. Good morning. It's Miss Shaheen, and welcome to your language and literacy session for today. This is Monday, September 21st. It's a brand new week. We are starting today off with a recorded lesson. Our class today is not live as it usually is, but I'm still here with you. We're still going to be doing some learning. And hopefully by now you've had a chance to watch your first video of the day with Mrs. Clark, and you had a chance to learn your new math lesson. But right now, we are going to jump into our language and literacy lesson for today. We will be learning a new one. We are going to do our Logic of English lesson 20 today. But before we begin, please take a moment to grab your communication journals, as we always do. We are going to write the following in the language and literacy section, keeping up with our good study habits, our organizational habits, so that if we need to remind ourselves what we learned today, we can easily refer back to our communication journals and take a look. So today, please write LoE 20. We are learning Logic of English 20. All right. Okay. And so I'm guessing most of you have probably had a chance to finish writing that in your CJs. If not, the great thing about this recorded video is that you can pause at any time to take the time that you need to pause and practice. You can rewatch if you'd like to see something again. Okay, so keep that in mind today as you're watching these videos. We are not pressed for time, but I would like to go ahead and move on and begin our lesson. So let's set our whiteboards and markers aside. Well, I guess in that case, it's just me with a whiteboard and marker. In your case, set your communication journals aside. And what I do need you to grab is your Foundations A workbook. We are going to start in our workbook today. So please take a moment and grab that. And once you have your Foundations A workbook, we are going to turn to page 61. Page 61 looks like this. You'll see 6 pictures. This is lesson 20. Lesson 20. Okay, and if we're all there, on our page 61, lesson 20, we are going to start our activity for today. So we are going to be identifying the final sound in words. The final sound, that's not something you've heard me say before. We've done a lot of practice already identifying beginning sounds, our onset sounds, right? Those are the sounds that you hear at the beginning of the word. But today we are going to listen for the final sounds in words. That's the sound at the end of a word, what finishes our word. Okay, so take a look at your workbook page. As we held up here, you should see those 6 pictures in front of you. Let's take a look at what we see there. I see a picture of a cat, a cup, a dog, a bike, a fish, and a house. You should see the same. So what we will do is I will say a sound. I want you to find the picture that ends in that sound. You're listening for the ending sound. And then we'll go ahead and we will segment our word. That means we'll unglue those individual sounds and we'll see if we're right. Okay, let's go ahead and begin. The first sound that you're listening for, which word ends in the sound G? G. Take a look at your page. Maybe say the words to yourself. What are those pictures you see? Think about which one of those words ends in the sound G. You're right, dog. Yes, I hear that too, dog. Let's segment the word dog and listen for the G sound. Dog is D, A, G. D, A, G. You hear that at the end? Okay. So now that we have found our first picture of dog, I'd like you to circle that in your workbook. It should look like this. Let's listen now for our next final sound. Let's find the word that ends in the sound sh. Sh. Take a look at the pictures in your workbook. Maybe say those words to yourself. Think about which one of those words ends in the sound sh. Fish. Yes, you're right, fish. So let's go ahead. We'll circle that word. Let's segment the word fish. Why don't you try this with me? What are the sounds that we hear, the individual sounds? F, I, sh. F, I, sh. Good. All right. Now let's listen for our next final sound. Please find the word that ends in the sound t. T. Take a look at your workbook page. Maybe say those words to yourself. What are those pictures there? Which one ends in the sound t? Cat. Yes, that's right, cat. I hear that too at the end, in cat. Let's segment that word cat. Please try this at home with me. Give me those individual sounds you hear in the word cat. What are they? K, a, t. K, a, t. Good. All right. We're moving right along, friends. Doing a great job. Let's try another one. Okay, this time, please find the word that ends in the sound p. P. Take a look at those pictures in your workbook. What are those words? Which one ends in the sound p? Cup. Yes, cup. I agree. I hear that too, that p in the word cup. Let's circle that picture in our workbook. Now let's segment the sound. Please try this with me at home. Let's do it together. What are those individual sounds we hear in the word cup? K, a, p. K, a, p. Good. All right. Our next word that I'd like you to be listening for the final sound with is, let's find the word that ends with this next final sound. Find the word that ends in the sound k. K. So this time you're looking at the pictures left. Which one of those words ends in the sound k? I agree. Bike. Bike. I do agree with that one. Yes. So let's go ahead and circle the picture of bike in our workbook here. And let's segment that word bike. Please try this at home with me. Let's do it together. What are those individual sounds you hear that come together to make the word bike? Let's do it. P, I, k, b, I, k. Bike. Yes. Good job. Okay, so if you have been following along at home and completing this workbook page, you should have 5 of the 6 pictures circled. We have gone through 5 words listening for their ending sounds. There should be 1 left. What is that picture there? Yeah, that's right. It's a house. It's a house. So this time, why don't you say the word house at home? You tell me, what is that ending sound you hear in the word house? What's that ending sound? Yeah, house. I hear that too. How do we know that we're right? Let's segment that word. Let's break it apart. Let's listen for those individual sounds. Please try it with me at home. What are those sounds you hear in house? We have ow, ps, ow, ps. Good. Let's go ahead. We'll circle that picture of a house. That's our final one on workbook page 61. So if you've been following along at home, we have now circled all 6 pictures on our workbook page 61 because we have done a great job listening for and identifying those final sounds. All right. So for a moment, I would like you to go ahead and please put your workbook aside. We are going to move on to a little bit of writing. We are going to be introduced to a new phonogram today. We have a new letter. So let's have eyes up on the screen, please. Eyes up on the screen. Before we begin learning our new letter and writing our new letter, we're going to take a look at it and listen for the sounds that it makes. Our new letter, our new phonogram today is U. It's our letter U. And the letter U makes 4 sounds. We have 4 sounds in the letter U. We have U, U, Let's say those 4 sounds. U, U, What are the different words we hear those 4 sounds in? As in up. We have U as in flute. We have U as in pupil. And we have as in put. As in put. Let's try those 4 sounds. Why don't you say them at home with me? U, 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 Do you hear the difference in and and It's slight, but they're there. As in up and as in put. Those are kind of the tough ones. It's a slight difference, but they are there. All right, friends. Great job with those sounds. We'll come back to that, but let's take a look at our letter U a little bit more in depth. We're going to turn to our Doodling Dragons book here, our book of sounds. Let's look at it. Our letter today, U, our beautiful letter U. We have our U, 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 Good. What are some words that use those 4 sounds that our letter U makes? We have uncles, ugly, underwear, bugle, music, everywhere. Tubas, tuning, parachuting. Put the butcher in the pudding. That's our sound. Put the butcher in the pudding. Our Yeah. Good, friends. All right. My goodness. So now that we've had a chance to take a look at our letter U and listen for the sounds that it makes, we can go ahead and learn how to write it. What do you think? Should we do some writing today? Of course. So what I'd like you to do now, please take a moment to grab your marker and your whiteboard or your line sheet of paper and your pencil. we're going to go ahead and learn how to write our letter U. Okay, you should now have your writing utensil with you. But before we start writing ourselves, please take a look up on the screen. Let's learn the proper strokes that we will use to write our letter U. So everyone, eyes up on me, please. Eyes up on me. We are looking at our letter U here. Where does our letter U start on our writing grid? We have our top line, our midline, and our baseline. Yeah, it starts at the midline. You see that here? It does. It starts at our midline. We're going to start at the midline. We are going to go down to the baseline. We're going to swing, excuse me, see where I'm doing. Try again, friends. We are going to start at our midline. We're going to go down to the baseline. We're going to swing up to the midline, and then we're going straight back down. Let's look at that one more time, please. We're going to start our letter U here at the midline. We're going to go down to the baseline, swing up to the midline, and come straight back down to the baseline. One more time. We're starting our letter U here at the midline. We're going down to the baseline, swinging up to the midline, and we're coming straight back down to the baseline. Let's please practice that 3 times at home in our best handwriting. I'm going to do that here too. Our letter U. We're going to start at the midline. We're going to swing down to the baseline, come up to the midline, and straight back down to our baseline. Our letter U. 3 times, please, at home. These are my 3. Hopefully your board or your piece of paper at home looks something like this. Something like this. All right. And after you've drawn your 3, you've written your 3 letters, I'd like you to circle or star which one you think is your best. Which one do you think was your best handwriting? I think for me, I like this first one. I think that first one looks pretty good. Take a look at yours. Find your best one, and then we're going to try to recreate that as we do some more practice. Yeah, as we've had a chance to learn the proper strokes for our letter U, let's do some more practice with that. So I'd like you to return to your workbook, please. Take a moment, grab your Foundations A workbook. We're going to go to the handwriting practice page this time. And that page is 63. We are on page 63 in our Foundations A workbook now. You see the picture of, I believe it's an umbrella, or maybe it's a parachute. And we are on 20.3 handwriting practice. Okay. Hopefully most of you are there. Remember, if you need a little bit more time, you can always pause this video, take all the time that you need. Well, what I'd like you to do on this handwriting practice page, as always, is we are going to practice our new letter. In this case, it's U. So you can either start at the top of your workbook page here and begin on the smallest size writing grid, or if you'd like, you can begin on the bottom grid here, which is larger. Whichever one is more comfortable for your hand as we get used to writing this new letter. I like to start at the top, so I'm going to start here. And please write your letter U 3 times on the line. Using your best handwriting. Going to move down here. We're starting our letter U at the midline. We're coming down to the baseline. We're swinging up to the midline, and we're coming back down to the baseline. Please write the letter U 3 times on each line in your workbook page. I'm going to do it at home here with you. All right, friends. And when you've had a chance to write your letter U 3 times on each line, your workbook page should look something like this. Something like this, yeah. Good. Good. Okay. Take your time at home to finish that handwriting practice page. All right. Once we've completed that handwriting page, I would like you to please turn your attention to the left of your handwriting practice page. Just look one page back. What do you see there on page 62? I see matching phonograms. I would like us to end our Logic of English lesson today with a little bit of review. These are some of the phonograms that we have already learned. Let's take a look at those phonograms. Let's remind ourselves what they look like, how we might see them printed in different places as we're reading, right? We take a look at these because on the right side here, our column in blue, this is what we're going to call our print. This is how we're learning to write all of our phonograms. But on the left side here, this column in orange, we're going to call this our book face print. That means this is how you might see our letters printed in other places as you're reading. We've looked at this before. We know that sometimes you might see letters that look just a little bit different than how we learn them, but it's still the same letter. So we want to make sure that we can recognize the letter in all the different forms that we might see it printed. Okay, let's match our book face to our print. Okay, so grab your writing utensil. We're going to start at the top here. On the left, our column in orange, our book face. The first phonogram I see is our letter T. That's our letter T. It looks pretty similar to how we learned to write it, but I do see that it kind of has a little hook at the bottom, doesn't it? It curves up. That's not how we write it. No. Let's take a look and find on the right side now our letter T in print. Here it is. Yeah, this is how we write it. But we know that this T and this T are the same letter, so we're going to draw a line to connect them. Let's take a look now at our next letter here in book face on the left in orange. That's our letter U. That's our new letter we learned today. Pretty similar to how we learned to write it, I would say. But I do see there's a little bit of a curve on the bottom there where the baseline would be, and we have a couple of extra kind of lines up on top. It's a little bit different for us, but we recognize it's the same letter U that we learned to write today. Let's find our letter U on print face. There it is. We're going to draw a connecting line because we recognize it's the same letter. We can see that. Yeah. All right. Moving down our column of book face on the left in orange, there's our letter S, our phonogram S. Pretty similar to how we learned to write it. I think this one's kind of easy. Let's find our print face S. There it is right on top. We're going to draw our connecting line. We're going to match those phonograms. We know that's both the letter S. Moving on down, phonogram P, our letter P. I think this one too looks very similar to how we learned to write it. Couple extra strokes here maybe, but very similar to our print face P, which I happen to see right there. Let's draw our connecting line. We're matching those phonograms. We know it's the same letter. Moving right along on our book face column, I see the letter I. Our letter I we learned. Let's see if we can find our letter I in print as we learn to write it. There it is on the bottom. Yeah, our letter I. It was just a simple downstroke and a dot, wasn't it? Looks very similar to the book face here. Let's draw a connecting line, showing that we know it's the same letter. We recognize it. Finally, we have our phonogram G at the bottom here in book face. Now this one, I have to say, it does look very different from the G that we have learned to write, doesn't it? Do you see that? That looks very different. Looks almost like two circles that were connected. Has a little flick at the top. That's very different from how we learned to write our letter G, isn't it? Let's find our letter G and print. Here it is, the second one. Yeah, do you see the difference? We came on down a drop hook below the baseline, but we do not connect our G down there, do we? We don't draw that second circle there, no. But we can see in book face that this is also the letter G. We're learning to recognize that too. So we are going to now draw our connecting line from our book face print to our print as we learn to write it. Good job, friends. All right. So we should now have a page that looks like this, all of our matching phonograms. Good job today. Let's go ahead. We'll close our workbook. I think we can give ourselves a pat on the back for the work that we did today with our new Logic of English Lesson 20. Good job. Thank you for bearing with me through this recorded video. I hope it has looked a lot like how we would do it normally. I'm sure you all have done a great job at home. We know our routine. We got this. We got this. We learned something new. All right. So that is it for your Logic of English lesson today. What I would like you to do next is watch a second video for your language and literacy section. This will not be with me. Instead, you'll be learning from another teacher at Basis. Her name is Miss Ferreira. She has a video for you today looking at some more writing and reading. With Miss Ferreira, you will be practicing fixing your sentences and also learning about plot in a story. If you remember on Friday, we did some review and we were taking a look at our sentences, what their structure is, and reminding ourselves of article and noun. It's going to look a lot like what we did on Friday, what you do with Miss Ferreira today. She is going to be writing some sentences for you. You're going to help her fix them. You're going to take a look at what needs correction. We've done a lot of work with our sentence structure. So have fun working with Miss Ferreira today. Okay, please go ahead and watch that video next, and I will see you again for civics. All right, friends, see you soon.